I got my new camping shoes. I was looking for something a little bit less dorky looking than the Crocs, and I found these natives. They're still pretty dorky looking, but at least they look a bit more like regular shoes, and so far I like them. But this is not a video about these shoes. I'm going to be doing a quick overview of my thoughts on the Kodiak canvas tent. I spent a lot of time on YouTube going through all the videos and all the reviews and setups and everything else of people covering this and comparing it to other tents and blah blah blah. I'm not going to go into things I've seen covered, or I'll try not to. I'm going to try to give somewhat of a unique or my own experiences with this, my own thoughts. So this should be a short video. If you want those other things, there's a lot of options for you. So just Google Kodiak canvas tent. This is the Kodiak Deluxe. This is a 6-person tent. They retail, I think, like $500 range. They're a canvas tent, so they're a lot heavier and thicker materials. The walls are much thicker. They're also somewhat breathable. Comparing it to another 6-person tent, this is a Coleman. And you can tell there's a pretty big size difference between these, especially considering this contains all the poles and everything you need to set up. And this one, it's multiple packages. This is all the internal organization, the stakes, the a little accessories and everything else I need that's kind of a smaller. These are the poles, and this is the actual canvas part of the tent itself. So you can tell it's a much larger package than this. Going on about the size, a lot of people say this is a car camping tent. I'll go a little bit further than that and say this is probably, for most people, going to be a truck camping tent or SUV camping tent. You're going to have a hard time fitting this in like an ice chest, your chairs, your stove, and all the other camping stuff in a car trunk. So a lot of people buying this tent are probably going to be taking a lot of stuff with them. It doesn't really make sense to buy such a huge tent and you're going to use all your backpacking stoves and your ultralight gear to go camping. So if you're buying this, you'll likely have a lot of large items too. So I think it's safe to say it's not going to fit in most people's trunks. It fits in my mid-sized truck bed just fine, but just keep that in mind. It's I would say it's even more than a car camping tent. Going on a little bit further, overall I do like the tent. The setup is fairly quick. It takes about 10 minutes, and 8 minutes of that is probably just getting the stakes in. It takes 14 stakes around the edge of the tent, so if you can't find like a good solid place to place the tent, where there's no roots and things like that, that ends up taking most of the time. So once you get those stakes in, that provides most of the kind of structure to the tent. There's a couple poles that stick in, and that takes like a couple minutes at most to get the tent up once the stakes are in. So I see a lot of videos of people doing where they kind of use like large screws, and they'll use an impact driver. That honestly doesn't seem like a bad idea. I might go down that route. Just so far I haven't really wanted to take an impact driver with me camping. But I understand why people do that now, given kind of how tedious it could be to set up this tent with the stakes. Going along with that, also, this is probably not going to work if you're trying to set it up like on a concrete pad, or just anywhere where you're not going to be able to drive a stake into the ground. This tent will not work without the stakes. So, yeah. Excuse me. One other thing I've seen in a ton of videos, people are saying just go with the 10-person. A ton of videos where like it's not that much bigger, the price isn't that much difference, and you should just go with the larger size if you had the option. I will say I kind of have to like strongly disagree with that. We've had almost every single time we've used this, we've had a hard time finding a suitable spot that can fit the like a suitable pad at the campsite we're at that can fit this tent. And almost every time it was kind of like too large, where parts of the tent were kind of going up a hill or on a large route, or just not ideal. So I know for sure in the last place we camped, a 10-person would have not worked. Like absolutely not. We were like within inches or exactly at the maximum size tent we could have fit in the largest pad in the site that we had. So I'm gonna kind of separate from the rest of the YouTube videos and a lot of people saying just go with the larger one. If you don't need the larger one, don't buy the larger one. Get the size you need, because you're gonna be much happier, especially like here in the Northwest. I use this in Washington. I've camped at a lot of different campsites here in Washington, Oregon. sometimes especially if you're camping with other people and you have to use multiple different tents in the same site, it can be very hard to find a large enough pad between the trees and the roots and everything like that for larger tents. So yeah, I'm happy I went with the 6-person and didn't listen to the advice about going with the larger one. But that's kind of my initial thoughts and ideas. One thing I did do is this is kind of just a little extra thing we did. We switched over to using cots recently instead of using air mattress. So we're using cots with our normal sleeping pads that we use for different camping situations, and also the quilts we just got. What I did is I went to IKEA and I bought a $1 doormat. IKEA sells pretty cheap doormats. I cut it up into 12 different squares, and I slipped these under all the different feet, under the chairs and under the feet of the cots, just to protect the bottom of the tent. It's a fairly tough material, but for $1 you get a couple of these pads that will help protect the bottom of your tent and keep it from wearing down or possibly puncturing a hole in the bottom. So that's something I would suggest. But yeah, just keep in mind this is a very large tent. There are smaller options available. Like this thing is also a 6-person. The difference being this is kind of a dome shape, so you do have about 6 feet of headroom in the middle of the tent, but as soon as you go to the edge, you're kind of bent over and you don't have that ceiling height all the way to the edge of the tent. With the Kodiak canvas tent, you have that same ceiling height across almost the entire part of the tent. It also has great organization. You has like a little loft you can set up and throw things up, and yeah, I can't complain about the tent. Overall, I like it. The biggest negative is the size. So if you can get around the size, I would recommend it. Just don't go with a larger one than you need, or you might run into some trouble in those smaller campsites. So that's all I have to go over today with this tent. If you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, let me know. You'll probably see more videos of this tent in the future, especially come next camping season. I might even try to take this out during the winter if I can find a good heater to use in the tent that's safe with carbon monoxide and things like that. So, alright everyone, thanks for watching. See everyone out there.